Joining us live in studio, Apostle BJ Langa, National Convener of ECHO Forum, Swiso Mahlangu, resident political analyst with ANN7, and you at home are most welcome to join in as well. Good evening to you, Apostle. Listening to Pravin Gordhan at the Ahmed Kathrada's memorial before the heckling in that, there's a part of it where he says the African National Congress, he is convinced, is the only party that carries, that can fulfill the ideals of a non-racial, non-sexist, transformative organization. And yet in the same breath, there's also the provocative statement around brown bags making the rounds. That in itself is contradictory. I mean, how does this assist in unifying the organization?
Thank you, Cindy. It is absolutely contradictive because you can't say something else on the other side, say another. I believe that we have arrived at a paradigm shift, as a nation, politically so. And one need to understand that, you see, as I'm speaking on behalf of all humankind, based on all walks of faith and race. And we're standing here today also saying that things that are being spoken by these men, and also using the bereavement and funerals for political scoring and battles, and that by itself, it actually shows you that mostly when you are no longer in the circle, you have to come and just backbite, or maybe also now try to prove a point whether you are a saint among those, because righteousness, it is one thing that is more manifest among a group. But if one person is right, that's the reason why ANC will proceed doing what they're supposed to do. So if a man believes in the policies, but he is able also to come on board and shambok and also speak things which are inaccurate. I mean, for me, just standing here, I can tell you that it is more bitter words that has come out of him, and which I believe they are also not meaning a right to be spoken forth by a leader, just a senior leader like himself.
Are you saying that this is more indicative of a personal war between Pravin Gordhan and President Jacob Zuma, that this is in effect a reaction to the reshuffle and whatever other personal issues may be there?
That's so true. Mr. Gwede said in a press statement after the NWC meeting that they understood and recognized that the relationship between Pravin Gordhan and President Jacob Zuma had broken down irreversibly and irretrievably. And for them, they were aware of that. Right after the reshuffling, Mr. Mantashe and others acted very surprised that the reshuffle had happened, but they knew that the relationship between these two men had broken down. I think this culminated to the situation that we have right now. Last week on Straight Talk, I had Ms. Jessie Duarte, who said that as the top six, they were going to meet with Mr. Pravin Gordhan and discuss his posture at the moment concerning these public hits that were being made at memorial services and out there in the community. But this is my point, Cindy, and I think as a country we need to be very concerned that we don't taint the memory of Mr. Ahmed Kathrada. President Zuma and Mr. Ahmed Kathrada have had disagreements, that's true. Ahmed Kathrada and Nelson Mandela have had disagreements. Ahmed Kathrada and Walter Sisulu have had disagreements. If South Africa is not aware of this, they should go and Google it. They should go and watch the documentaries. When Mandela left prison, there was a time when they were not communicating with Ahmed Kathrada because they didn't believe in what should be given or attributed to white people during the negotiations. That happens in politics. And for one to come and read a letter that was written publicly as if it was the last mind and idea of Ahmed Kathrada, I think is tainting his memory. What happened at that venue when Mr. Gordhan was speaking? The ANC Youth League was one side, and they were, they were singing anti-Pravin songs. Mr. Gordhan is on stage. The Muslim community, many who are still mourning within the family of Ahmed Kathrada, are sitting there in the front. That's already a division in the nation. I think we must be careful looking at what has happened to Egypt today, that we don't have political wars, We don't have color wars. And even worse, we don't have religious wars in this country. So we shouldn't taint a leader and make him speak what we want him to say, even though he is laid. If he is at rest, I think we must celebrate the memory of Ahmed Kathrada. He was a man that believed in non-racialism, and we must accept that as a nation. But to use that podium to hit at Batabile Dlamini, when the minister did not go and speak to Batabile Dlamini and help her out with the CPS debacle, to use the memorial service of Ahmed Kathrada to make these hits, to me looks like it's a vindictive measurement. At the end of the day, it will be as if Mr. Kathrada was not a member of the ANC, Mr. Kathrada was against President Jacob Zuma, and that's not true. As leaders, people often disagree on policy. He did that with Mandela, but they came together and said, for the sake of freedom, you and I can work together. And I mean, it's a hallucination to believe that if you and I work together for freedom, we will not disagree at some point. There will be disagreements, but for the method and the purpose of freedom, we're going to work together. I believe our leaders should not use funerals or memorial services, and particularly the memory of Uncle Kathy, to drive personal vendettas. It is wrong, and I think it is shameful to both the Christian and the Muslim community in this country.
Yeah, but and this vitiation of his legacy, as you say, Siso, taking away from the institutional knowledge and stature that Uncle Kathy had, politicking on both sides. We heard the ANC Youth League saying that they are there to represent Jacob Zuma, albeit that he was barred from attending the funeral in retaliation of the actions of the family. But it doesn't bring the organization any closer to unity, at least not in the public space. How does that impact on social cohesion in the organization and externally?
No, it does. It does, especially when the grey-haired and the statesmen, those who are entrusted and been given the opportunity to present their expertise in time, and we have entrusted them actually with the republic as in with our nation. And if you see the kind of Mbeki and all those that goes there, and in terms of also Mantache, they use such platforms, and that by itself, it brings provocation. So when you provoke, you see now the Youth League, yes, did come and did what they did, and we all call them Youth League. But now you need to understand even biblically that it says that you shouldn't, as much as we also want to see them respecting the elders, we cannot actually go on provoking them in that manner. So now if they are on the side of the president, that would be one of the things that would be done, because that's the same door and platform that was actually used and opened by elders of this nation and also the former statesmen of this nation. So now, Cindy, you need to understand that democracy, in the absence of theocratic impartation, it cannot operate. That's the problem. That's where South Africa is actually now failing, because we need to remember, as much as ANC has come on board into becoming a liberational, meaning a party. Now, in this time, what they used then, even though they were tactical and whatsoever strategy they used, one of the things which was used muchly was a spiritual intervention. And that is what is not used today. For that reason, if you see people entering in the bereavement, I mean, just in a funeral, doing what they're doing, it shows you that we have lost our morals or our moral, and we need to come to a regeneration of some sort.
I couldn't agree more. Mlondi Mkize, ANC Youth League spokesperson, thank you so much for joining us. Can you clarify the issue about the brown envelopes making the rounds and where that takes the unity debate or imperative in the organization?
Well, I think the first point that we need to make as the Youth League is that the continuous attack in the public domain of the character of the president and the people that are associated with him for various reasons is of concern, particularly when you look at the leaders of the African National Congress. We think that as the African National Congress Youth League, it would not be appropriate to suggest in any platform that there are people who are receiving envelopes, and the results of those envelopes is to sway them in terms of their thinking when we are going for an elective conference. I think that those are things that we would need to deal with. And those that allege such things, they should not just be saying them in the public domain where they would not be challenged. They should be putting them in bodies which can pursue them. You don't say in society, I am fighting corruption. You then say, I know that there are one or two things that I think that are corrupt tendencies, but you opt not to report them because it tends to be viewed, or it tends to be, the kind of information that is used when people want to grandstand and claim moral authority. But the essence of it is that it dents both those individuals that are attacked and the integrity of the African National Congress. That's why as the Youth League we've been consistent in saying that we should be doing things differently, not the way things are being done by many of us in different sectors and quarters of the country.
But it's not only Pravin Gordhan. Many other ANC leaders have criticized the party publicly, and we question, if you're still wearing the T-shirt, should you be doing, is it becoming of a leader to criticize your organization publicly? So, Mlondi, please stay on the line.
Of course, people can disagree. That's very normal. And we do expect with this kind of a robust democracy, and often we come against organizations that want to take everything to court because you can have coercive debate. And so we encourage people to debate and to have robust engagement and find answers, and also come to solutions on matters and even sensitive matters. But I think the challenge is when some present very decisive and vindictive measurements against other personalities, and that is to swing votes or to swing power or to swing support. When I speak and then I get support, every struggle, Cindy, it has got two things. Number one, every struggle has its victims, and number two, every struggle has its opportunists. And even with men such as Mr. Pravin Gordhan, after he raised that intelligence report and he made a statement and he left office, shortly after the statement, before he'd finished speaking, he was joined by Mr. Sipopichan and Mr. Zwelinzima Vavi, who stood before him. Right outside, he went to make a public statement at the tent where people had assembled. We have it in our information that he had not invited those people, but people had, maneuvered and meticulously organized to say the man is fired, let him come and address us, as if now he is growing another political party or vying for regime change. And so people must also be awakened to opportunists who are out there, who want to hijack any revolution. Some of these organizations are not real organizations. They will not appear on the ballot paper. But it's simply to sway, to persuade public opinion against or for a cause. If people are really to be united, then you don't want to take a podium and said, well, that leader did this and that leader did that and that leader received a brown envelope. If you know there's a brown envelope, then you need to go to the Hawks and you need to go to the SAPS. But if there's internal disputes, I know that the ANC has got internal structures. So why don't these leaders, and particularly Mr. Gordhan, enter the NEC meeting and say, these are my grievances and I want us to discuss them?
In terms of the ANC's disciplinary code of conduct, Londi, is it your view that with the rebellion that you've seen against the leadership of the ANC, that those need to be taken to task or at least answer to their conduct?
The inability of the African National Congress to deal decisively with the problem of ill discipline in the ANC is that it permits a culture where certain elements of ill discipline could be done and people are not then punished. Firstly is that when you say and do things that harm the integrity of the African National Congress, you should immediately be taken to necessary process to understand that that is an offense and that should not be done. What is worse is when you see senior leadership doing these kind of things. But secondly is that I think that, sometimes we get platforms as various leaders, individuals, and we miss an opportunity of using the platforms in an appropriate manner. I can tell you, if you had removed Mlondi Mkhize as the Minister of Finance, it serves no purpose for Mlondi to be going around telling the Republic how bad the person who had employed him is or was. Secondly, it does not help to speak ill about the country that you claim you fought for and you still dearly love. Because when you do those things under the pretext of mobilizing people and at times having find agencies that will sympathize with you, you don't only think and that you are doing harm against the person that you think you are annoyed, but you are equally doing harm to South African citizens. Let me make an example. Particularly on this issue of speaking ill about each other in public and attacking people on the premise that you have been or you feel that you are aggrieved. We know that the ANC Women's League has once at some point challenged the Standard & Poor of Living, saying that when they met, one of their members made a comment to say that if Pravin Gordhan is reduced, it will have an impact on our rating. And ultimately that became the truth. So when you begin as an individual to do those kind of things, you don't even help the South Africans and the South Africa that you proclaim.
You are saying that the ANC needs to be decisive, Mlondi. So what action, if any, will the party be taking to rein in those that are despondent or rebellious against the party?
Maybe the question would be, when they want to take that action, who is not rebellious? Because if you have got a situation where a decision is taken by a leader and then you find his colleagues going out in public, distancing themselves from that, how do you then able to rein in discipline when it seems that ill discipline has in fact been a daily conduct that even senior leadership are trapped in this kind of behavior? When you say no one should speak ill against the African National Congress and its leadership, and you stand up as a leader of the African National Congress and you say kinds of things that ought not to be said in public, you are harming the same integrity. Then some of us would then conclude that some of them will be unable to act decisively in dealing with ill discipline because it might conflict with what they've done before.
All right, just stay on the line, please, Mlondi. Just your reaction, Apostle Langa, in terms of, as you were saying, in organizational structures, there are processes in place to govern and to ensure that you toe a particular organizational culture. Do you think that the ANC can do more in disciplining members, or at least stopping them from public spats?
They could, as we said, that democracy has, meaning it is now more derivative into the constitution. So it means there are laws and there are structures that are being actually placed and given to be followed by the leadership of ANC. So you see now you cannot also deal with its membership or whether its leadership if you don't deal with the top structure. You see, that's very imperative. You see, you need to begin first with the top structure, the top six. They are the ones that need to outline in terms of what is it that need to be done. So that's why, even as I said, now I'm pressing this meaning a fact that says they need to consider, because if we say Nkosi Sikelele, Morena Buluka. So as a nation, it means we are a believing nation. So independent of whether from which meaning church or congregation, we are interdenominational. So, but now we need to, as South Africans, to now consider that going forward from the top six. And when it goes from the top six, it's like an oil that flows from the head of Aaron. It will touch the hem of its garment. Then everybody from the provincial, the regional, and also the branch structure will absolutely adhere what they see happening at the top.
Yeah, Apostle, they're bringing divine intervention, but when it comes to what the ANC needs to do to rebound from this, 2019 is at stake, as some leaders have articulated.
We'll pray in other tongues at the end, but the reality is a split is imminent. Every 5 years from the robust interaction, there is a group that is left unhappy, as you saw with COPE, the Congress of the People. And if they group together, that already becomes a political party. The elective conference is ahead of us, and it's only going to get uglier. Yeah. And if you want to affect the organization in any form, you kill the head, and President Jacob Zuma becomes target number one. In the end, whoever becomes victorious will be the new leader of the ANC. Those who are left unhappy will form a new group, and then we'll see the development of another party. That in its nature is what Rogue, the theorist, calls party politics.
As Mzwanele Manye on Twitter says, when you kill the shepherd, the sheep scatter. Yeah. So we're going to have to leave it there, gentlemen. Indeed, always appreciated. Siso Mahlangu, resident political analyst, and we have Londi Mkize, ANC Youth League spokesperson, and Apostle BJ Langa, national convener of ECHO Forum. You at home, thanks indeed for joining us. Clive Ramatibela Smith is up next. I'll see you again tomorrow evening this time. Cheers for now.